Emma was a young woman who had always dreamed of speaking English fluently. She had learned the basics in school, but when she tried to speak, she felt shy and nervous. Her English always seemed too simple, and she wanted to be better. One day, Emma met an old woman at a park bench who seemed to know a secret. "I can teach you how to become fluent," the woman said with a smile. The old woman, whose name was Mrs. Foster, told Emma that the key to fluency was not just studying grammar books. "The first step is to believe in yourself," Mrs. Foster said. "Confidence is the foundation. If you believe you can speak, your mind will find ways to make it happen." Emma wasn't sure if it was that simple, but she agreed to give it a try. The next day, Mrs. Foster gave Emma a challenge: listen to English every day for 30 minutes. "But I don't understand everything," Emma replied. "It's not about understanding everything right away," Mrs. Foster explained. "Just listen. Your brain will start to recognize patterns, and you'll start to understand more." The following week, Emma was nervous about her first conversation in English. Mrs. Foster reminded her, "Don't worry if you make mistakes. Focus on speaking, not on being perfect." Emma practiced repeating sentences from English podcasts, movies, and songs. She tried to mimic the sounds, even if it felt strange. After a few weeks, Mrs. Foster told Emma to read aloud every day. "Reading helps your brain make connections between sounds and words," she explained. Emma started reading easy books in English. At first, she stumbled over difficult words, but slowly, she began to understand more. One day, Mrs. Foster asked Emma to keep a daily journal in English. "Writing helps you remember new words and expressions," she said. Emma was hesitant at first, but she soon found that writing down her thoughts in English was a fun way to practice. She started writing about her day, her dreams, and her goals. Emma's biggest challenge was speaking without fear. "Every mistake is a step towards fluency," Mrs. Foster said. "Don't be afraid to make mistakes." The more you speak, the more you'll improve. Emma took a deep breath and started speaking English with friends, classmates, and even strangers. One day, Mrs. Foster suggested that Emma travel to an English-speaking country for a month. Immersion is one of the best ways to learn, she said. Emma was nervous about leaving her home, but she decided to take the leap. She traveled to London, where she practiced speaking with everyone she met. While in London, Emma made new friends who spoke English fluently. They encouraged her to practice with them. Emma learned something new from each conversation, and slowly, she felt more comfortable using English in real-life situations. Vocabulary is the key to understanding and being understood, Mrs. Foster reminded Emma. She gave Emma a tip: learn 5 new words every day, and use them in sentences. Emma kept a notebook where she wrote down new words she encountered during her travels and her studies. Back at home, Emma began to worry about grammar. "Is my grammar correct?" she asked Mrs. Foster one day. Mrs. Foster smiled and said, "Grammar is important, but don't focus on it too much." Fluency comes from communication. If people understand you, you're doing just fine. Emma had learned many lessons over the past few months, but there was one thing that stood out: consistency. You won't become fluent in one day, Mrs. Foster explained. It's like planting a seed. You have to water it every day. The more consistent you are, the faster you'll improve. Emma began setting small, realistic goals for herself. I will speak in English for 10 minutes every day, she decided. I will read 1 chapter of a book in English each week. With each small success, Emma grew more confident in her abilities. One day, Emma was invited to an English-speaking event. She felt nervous. "What if I make a mistake?" she asked Mrs. Foster. "Everyone makes mistakes," Mrs. Foster replied. "The most important thing is to speak. The more you speak, the less you will fear it." At the event, Emma spoke to a woman from Australia. At first, she stumbled over her words, but the woman encouraged her. "You're doing great. Keep going." Emma realized that the more she practiced, the easier it became to speak without hesitation. One evening, Emma watched a movie in English with subtitles. Mrs. Foster had told her that watching movies was a fun way to learn. Movies teach you expressions, slang, and how people really speak, Mrs. Foster had said. Emma laughed at the funny scenes and picked up new words. After months of practice, Emma began to feel frustrated. Why am I not fluent yet? She wondered. Mrs. Foster reminded her, fluency takes time. Be patient with yourself. Progress is like climbing a mountain. You won't see it every day, but when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. One day, Emma met a man named David who had also been learning English. They decided to practice together. Speaking with someone else is a great way to improve, David said. We can help each other. Emma was excited to have a practice partner. Emma downloaded an English learning app and started using it every day. The app helped her practice speaking, listening, and even grammar. Technology is your friend, Mrs. Foster said. Use it to your advantage. Emma realized that technology made learning easier and more fun. Emma was practicing with David when he corrected one of her sentences. It's okay, Emma said. I know I made a mistake. I'm just happy I'm speaking. David smiled. That's the right attitude. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. Mrs. Foster introduced Emma to idioms and phrasal verbs. These are important to sound natural in English, she said. Learn them in context, not just as isolated words. Emma started collecting idioms and phrasal verbs and using them in her conversations. One evening, Emma sat down with her friends and spoke in English for hours. She realized that speaking freely was one of the most enjoyable parts of learning. You've come a long way, one of her friends said. Emma smiled and agreed. She had. Emma's journey wasn't always easy, but she learned that the key to fluency was taking small steps. She kept practicing every day, never giving up. She learned that every word spoken and every sentence written was a step forward. Emma's positive mindset helped her stay motivated. If you think you can do it, you will, Mrs. Foster said. Believe in yourself. Emma realized that the belief in her own abilities was just as important as the practice itself. Learning doesn't have to be boring, Mrs. Foster told Emma. Find ways to make it fun. Play games, watch videos, and speak with friends. The more enjoyable it is, the easier it will be to keep going. Emma continued to read aloud every day. She loved the way her English skills grew stronger with each page. Sometimes, she would even read stories to her younger brother, who loved listening to her in English. As Emma's fluency grew, she started making English a part of her daily life. She switched her phone to English, followed English-speaking influencers online, and even listened to English podcasts during her morning walk. Emma learned that making mistakes was part of the process. Every mistake is a lesson, she thought. She stopped worrying about being perfect and started focusing on communicating. The more I speak, the better I get. Emma built a daily routine for practicing English. She practiced speaking in the morning, listening during lunch, reading in the evening, and writing before bed. She realized that consistency was the secret to success. Emma continued to challenge herself by speaking with strangers, joining English-speaking clubs, and taking advanced classes. The more you challenge yourself, the faster you'll grow, Mrs. Foster told her. One day, Emma was invited to speak at a conference in English. She felt nervous at first, but then she remembered all the practice she had done. She took a deep breath and spoke confidently. Her presentation was a success. Emma had come a long way. She could now speak English with ease and confidence. She had learned that fluency was not about being perfect, it was about being able to communicate effectively. Mrs. Foster told Emma, "Learning never stops. Even when you reach your goals, keep learning. There's always more to discover." Emma agreed. She continued her journey, knowing that fluency was a lifelong adventure. Emma decided to help others who were learning English. She remembered how Mrs. Foster had helped her and wanted to do the same for others. She started tutoring students and giving advice about how to learn English. One day, Emma realized that learning English had opened so many doors for her. She could travel, make friends, and connect with people from all over the world. Language is a gift, she thought. As Emma looked back on her journey, she smiled. She had gone from being shy and uncertain to confident and fluent. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it, she thought. Even though Emma was fluent, she knew there were still challenges ahead. Every new challenge is an opportunity to learn more, she said to herself. She was excited for the future. Emma had learned that fluency was not just about speaking, It was about embracing a new way of thinking and living. She was ready for the next chapter of her life, one filled with even more opportunities to learn and grow. Emma had learned the secret to fluency: practice, patience, consistency, and a positive mindset. She had transformed from a beginner into a confident speaker. The journey wasn't easy, but it was one worth taking. As Emma sat at the park bench once again, she smiled at Mrs. Foster. "Thank you," she said. "For helping me become fluent." Mrs. Foster smiled back. "You did all the hard work. I just pointed you in the right direction." And with that, Emma knew her journey to learning and growing would never end.